So I'll try to give some thoughts on the topic. So first of all, I'm really happy to hear so much about the still agile transformation. We started with Ben, Liliana talking about the agile transformation in the COVID times, and then 2 years ago in Amsterdam, in our last Unleash Change Management Summit, I talked about the case study of Santander Bank agile transformation. I really believe that this kind of a setup is a perfect vehicle for translating vision into action. So especially in the COVID times. But of course, agile part here, I would like to touch on the strategic part and start with maybe kind of a controversial point of view. Do we still need strategy in the COVID and post-COVID, post-pandemic times? Because I could ask you a question in the polls, but I didn't, unfortunately. How many of us predicted COVID pandemic in our strategies? Were we prepared for what happened? Well, I think that the answer is pretty obvious. Maybe some of our companies were at a better starting point, like, moved to remote digital ways of working a few years before 2020. But COVID seems like really a great failure of strategic planning, because it just didn't appear in the strategies. Of course, we could right now discuss for many hours if COVID is like a black swan or rather gray rhino. That's a very interesting discussion, but of course we don't have time for that. I myself, I don't like the black swan perspective, because it's kind of fatalistic and it rejects feeling of accountability, because we say, okay, it was unpredictable. And for COVID, yeah, we received some obvious signals. We just simply, in most of the companies, we ignore the signals. So yeah, do we still need strategies if they don't see the signals? I think that the role of the strategy itself, role of chief strategic officers, directors, you name it, it will change. And a few thoughts that I have to want to share with you are that, first of all, strategies will have to really embrace uncertainty by planning for multiple alternate futures. I mean, for the time being, we planned for a pessimistic, optimistic, realistic scenario, adjusting figures somehow. But right now, in this reality that we are in and we will be facing over next years, we must really be ready to prepare for totally different realities, different worlds, and strategy should also embed it, not only look at the more or less positive scenario. Second, we have to, as strategists, help companies to really reconsider what is possible, get rid of boundaries of what we do as companies and how we do it. Of course, we experience a lot of that happening during the pandemic time, and we must make sure that over next months, years, it will be maintained. And that's a big role of the strategy, I believe, to really stimulate this ongoing challenging of our boundaries. So strategy should kind of orchestrate all the navigation throughout these uncertain times, not only to help survive over next weeks, next months, but really sustain this pace, this adrenaline that was unleashed in the companies during the pandemic. But the question, okay, so how we can maintain it over the next month? So my answer to this question, do we need strategy? Yes, we need for this new normal strategy, slightly changed, should be different. So yeah, that's my, let's say, starting perspective.
Thank you, Piotr. I'm going to encourage maybe Kosala to respond to that or to comment. I know, Meike, you're still trying to unmute yourself in the background, so unless we're all very good at sign language, this could be a bit of a struggle. You might want to use the chat if you want to share some things, so at least we have you. Kosala, yeah. Over to you.
Excellent. Hope I can hear well, right?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. So I think it's a great starting point, whether the strategy is required or not. So once a wise man once said, vision without action is a dream, action without a vision is a passing the time. Vision with action can make the world change. So in that context, with this pandemic, I believe there are 5 types of people I have seen in the organizations about this vision into the strategy and to action. First is some people, they don't have a vision and action. So I will park them out. There are certain people in our organization, they're very good in action, but lack of vision. So as a leaders, where we need to do is we need to put them under a good visionary leaders, then they can work well, very well. There are certain people very visionary. Even we see that corporate at a higher level. What we need to do is we need to put under them very good operating officers. We call chief operating officers. So these have a very good vision, and these chief operating officers will help them to get their vision. There are 4 types of people are there. I think before the pandemic, we saw this. You have a very clear vision and very clear strategy, and you have a very clear action plan, detailed action plan, when, how, when, etc. And what happened is post-pandemic, we learned that you have a vision, but you require the more flexibility in your action plan. More you have the flexibility, like the way I see special operators, like special forces or commandos. They have a vision, they know their mission, what they need to achieve. However, every minute, every second, things change. So you need to have that flexibility. And if you have that flexibility, and if you have trained to get that flexibility, at whatever situation comes, you go and achieve your mission, and you go and achieve your vision. Yeah. So one area I would like to conclude in this part, few things to remember. If we start with our vision or our task with the why question instead of a what, the change can be done is very easily, because when people know why we are doing, why this change need to happen, why we need to achieve this vision, and it has been put into a picture in your mind, everyone knows what they need to achieve. For example, from the CEO to janitor in the organization knows what we need to achieve in a one single line. Then they know I'm contributing for this organization vision. This is the area sometimes people never or underestimate. If you're in the head office or a global organization like me, we never think about how this is passing to the people who are in the 5,000, 7,000 kilometers in the ground, or the salespeople, or you call baristas, who are the frontliners. So it's extremely important. Then after we create the why, of course, then we need to have our plans in the what and how and when and who, right? So as a starting point, yes, we require a vision, we require a strategy, but it is extremely important in this agile world, VUCA world, having a more flexibility, being ready for face any challenges which is coming, and quickly adapt. That also creating you to start thinking something very interesting concept is the unlearn to learn to relearn. This is the most difficult part, especially when you are getting older. You need to unlearn, and you need to learn, and you need to relearn. So this is a time things need to be unlearn and relearn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kosala. Maryna, over to you. Your thoughts on this fascinating topic.
Well, I would like to sort of connect to what the previous speaker said. And I guess my take or addition to this would be to be focusing more on the organization itself. Because very often what we hear in any type of change presentations, we focus on the customer, we focus on the speed. And whereas, as pandemic showed, the stabilization of what's going on within the organization and the routine processes that still have to happen, we sort of underestimate the importance of those. So I would like to say a few things about that, and kind of perhaps a few even practical tips. So the first thing that I'd like to focus on, if we talk about aligning approach with action, and it's probably a controversial thing because we talk about agile and how great it is making people accountable. But by that, I mean not accountable as a team, as agile approach suggests, but actually individual people, because that's actually the downside of agile. And I think that sometimes we get lost in the hype of the method itself. And I think having the individual people being accountable and actually allowing people to make decisions faster when they have imperfect information, that's okay. So that kind of also links to the earlier conversations we had this morning, the presentations on psychological safety and allowing people to make mistakes. Another thing I want to focus on is that leaders should focus on the inside, so on the empathy that our employees require. So especially in the pandemic situation or in any situation of change, the understanding of how people experiencing that should not be underestimated, because obviously the vision usually comes from above, while people on the work floor who actually have to execute it have some kind of input and how they feel about it is very important and should not be put aside. And this is what we often see in reality when things that are measurable, they don't show these type of things. So as a leader, it's very important to give people that attention, especially when we are in this virtual work mode, when we don't see each other. Another thing I want to bring up, which Kosala also mentioned, the learning how to learn. I mean, now I think not only do we have to learn how to learn the new skills, such as collaborating with each other, being able to move things forward when we are not in the physical space with each other. At the same time, I want to say we also might need to learn how to work. And also as leaders, perhaps it's an important thing, and maybe a food for thought for those of you who are listening, is can we really expect people to be as productive when their circumstances change? So when you're sitting at home with small children, you can't expect someone to be as productive as somebody who doesn't. At the same time, the other side of that sort of positive discrimination, if you will, you see people who do not have children, they are expected to be in the office, to perform, as much as they did or even more. So this is where, as a leader, I think you have to try to stay fair. At the same time, my question is it realistic? So basically, I guess my main message is we have to slow down, if you will, because if you look at any types of, agile presentations, change management presentations, we always talk about speed, faster, give the consumers added value and so on. But is this always a good thing? Because we are running and running and running, and we forget about the impact that it has on our people, on our employees. They get tired, they get exhausted. And in the long term, I think we don't pay enough attention to sustainability of our workforce. And I guess that's my main message in this whole discussion of how we translate our vision into action. Thank you.
Maryna, thank you very much. Piotr, we've got you back, and we've actually got a visual on you as well, which is wonderful. One of the things you wanted to share was something around good practices from the pre-pandemic world, which will be even more needed. And you mentioned something about servant leadership and team autonomy and various other things. Would you mind sharing just a couple of insights on that particular notion?
You ask me or?
Yes, Piotr, yes, I asked.
Yeah, of course. I already linked to the agile thing at the beginning. I think that really important is that right now, when we are almost all of us at home, remote work, nobody's watching us. So that, let's say, old-fashioned command and control style of managing, leading, it was outdated before COVID, but now it's even more. So it's really important to give people autonomy, build trust, and let them define their road to the actions to realize, to deliver on vision. And I can, and also very important is the flexibility that we must embed in the strategy planning. I will give you maybe one example of the bank that I right now represent, the Polish National Development Bank. So once COVID started, we of course focus on helping economy to survive, helping companies to financial aid to survive and to maintain the economy rolling. But in the same time, last year, we prepared new strategy for the bank for the next 5 years. Of course, built on the basis of the COVID, of where we are here, but where we want to be and how we want to help economy grow. And we made it really simple. We truly focus on one thing: is sustainable development of the country, of the society, and everything around us is about that. We give a lot of flexibility, so we get rid of very long documents explaining how complex achievements we will have. We have few main milestones, like achieving the ESG rating in 2 years period, to make everyone clearly in the company understand what we want to do, and then showing these visions, we ask people to translate it into the action. So no more like really top down, saying, okay, you do this, you do this. We put together all the management team, showing the vision. Okay, now guys, let's try to think not as a lead, as a director of a division, but as an entire body, how we all can do what we can do to support the realization of the vision. Translate it into your tasks, your responsibilities, and then your people. And it makes like a top-down, bottom-up mix, which I believe is really good. We're moving to use this kind of a QBR tools from the agile world, but very important is this flexibility, this autonomy, and also I mentioned at the beginning the alternate scenario planning. We implemented that in the strategy, looking at the major aspects that we are, let's say, monitoring. For us, as a bank of development, we, for instance, focus on how much we are decreasing the CO2 emission in an economy. So if we see that it's not decreasing that fast as we as a country should, we as a bank of development put some extra efforts to help it happen. So we have several triggers of that kind. We haven't prepared hundreds of plans for that, but we know, okay, if this happens, we do this and that, and then we elaborate on that. So this is kind of a mix of flexibility, alternate scenario planning. That's also, I think, worth mentioning. That's my last comment, because we also, besides the sustainability that we are focusing on, we also change our way of thinking. Okay, we are a bank. What we do? Do we finance things, or rather we finance some effects, some impact on the society? So, for instance, we are moving from talking about, okay, so how many millions of euros we spent on electric buses, but we're talking how many people right now are moving in electric buses instead of cars. And this is how we see our role and how we give purpose to people, not only our employees, but also entire economy that we cooperate with, other banks, commercial banks, enterprises, public sector. So this is a really important change in the approach. So propose flexibility and alternate scenario plan, autonomy to the people. That's really, really important from my perspective.
Kosala and Maryna, would you like to react to what Piotr has shared, or build on that?
Yeah,
or challenge,
actually,
or disagree?
Yes. No, actually not to disagree. I agree, plus I would like to share a real example, build on that. So I manage about 95 countries across the globe. Thankfully, before the pandemic, we learned something. It's extremely difficult to control from head office, and make sure that we have a lot of brands. We said, okay, we will set the brand framework, brand vision. We call brand vision, brand strategy, brand action plan, brand architecture, everything. Then what we did was, fortunately, we trained all our countries, people who are in the ground. We call baristas, brand managers. We trained them, marketing directors. We trained them about the brands. And we created a brand purist in the country. I repeat the word brand purist in the country, they know the brand better than us now. So whenever we gave the full autonomy or empowerment, manage the brand within the framework. At the same time, also we gave the autonomy 10%. They can experiment also. Of course, if they are not sure, they can check with us whether they can experiment that, because then we can further improve. If that is real great stuff, then we put into the repeatable global model. And where one of the things is, when you are empowering, of course, accountability and responsibility goes, and the ownership. So that model actually works very well when you are empowering people, because they also really enjoy. It's not somebody is controlling, but within the framework I need to work. I think this is the way I believe we need to do it, because with the younger generation, they require more empowerment. They require to participate in and especially when you are involved, 100% commitment comes. And the engagement scores also went significantly up in the people survey when we changed the entire shift of command and control to empowerment method. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kosala. Maryna, would you like to say something or challenge her a little bit?
Well, I think what Kosala says, if people hold themselves accountable, it's very easy to give that autonomy, because if it's not there, the autonomy would backfire on you. And then you as a manager, you would have to micromanage to run after people and make sure that they deliver what they're supposed to. So a big part of that also is people taking ownership themselves instead of the leader actually pointing out and saying, well, you have to be accountable. I think a lot of that is related to employees being accountable and dedicated to what they do. And as I've said, instead of relying on shared responsibility that everybody is accountable and at the end nobody is, to say, what is my role and do I deliver the KPIs that I'm supposed to? I think we lost Chris there somewhere. And I think, Meike, you're still on mute.
So who's taking the panelist?
I think Piotr, you are taking the chair.
Well, so Kosala, maybe you would like to challenge.
Yeah, we can continue our discussion. Yeah. So one area I would like to take the discussion into a different territory. One of the best practices where we use of how execution come well in the markets. One of the biggest challenges is for us is we have a great plans, great visions. How can make that execution? So we use in Upfield, we use something called a simple technique called 1111 technique. That is 4 ones. Yeah. So if somebody comes with a great idea, what we say is you get a $1 to spend with your team to enjoy. So $1 we give great idea, you clap it, and we says, okay, your team will get a $1 to enjoy. If that idea converted into a good business plan, we says, okay, you get another $10. So you have $11 to enjoy, go and enjoy with your team. And if that plan converted into the on-time in full delivery, or you call, it may be a project, it can be a new product development. If you launch, we pay another $100, go and enjoy. This is apart from your salary and etc. So you get $111 to go and enjoy. But if after a 1 year or 2 years within the project period, if you deliver and execute pretty well, we disproportionately give the benefit to the team and we pay $1,000. Yeah. Then you get 1,111. So this is called 1111 rule, because by doing this, we have realized execution is the most critical thing. Most of the cases, what happens is in the centrally or regionally, you have a brand managers or the product development managers. They launch on time in full and they get their promotions, they get their increment, but no one check whatever you launch, your project or your business plan is properly executed. What we have changed is we have given the full responsibility, the same people who have created the project, end-to-end execution. And whatever you promise, your idea, you deliver. That also gives a lot of self-actualization, because what your idea, you are giving a chance to execute in the market and you see the results. So that make a massive change in the people's mindset, because then you know exactly more realistic plans to bring into the picture. At the same time, also we learned a very interesting thing. A few years ago, I was in another organization. We took, after 1 year, we took entire business plan, you call financial business cases. And we found out 92% of the business cases are not delivering exactly what they promise after 1 year. So then what we did was we put a rigorous processes and systems, as well as train the people on execution. And that number reduced to 48% after 1 year because of the great execution. So always I strongly say to my teams, execution is the most important thing. If you want to turn around the business, or if you want to change things, focus on the execution, because after you debate and agreed on your vision, it's extremely critical to make sure you have absolutely great execution in the market to deliver the results. I believe that is also something called founders mentality. Founders always focus on the great execution. They come with minimum viable products, they execute and get the great stuff. Yeah.
Kosala, maybe I can build on, I see in the chat there are some comments. And Chris, since you were on mute, we could sort of continued and
no, that's perfect. I was thinking, thank goodness we have such wonderful speakers online. I don't have to worry too much.
That was a test for us of autonomy.
It was a
and
good
empowerment.
test. In fact, it was in line with the servant leadership notion, you know.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I'd like to mention the comment of Felix, who's talking about taking over ownership and not burning out the high performers. And yeah, I guess I have my own stake on this, but I'd like to hear from you as well. Well, I don't think it's realistic to expect that everybody in an organization takes ownership. This is just, yeah, not a realistic scenario. So obviously you have high performance and you have low performance. That's just the reality of things. So I guess as a leader, so in my department, I obviously have those people as well. You want to watch out that those high performers don't work too much, and actually you kind of have to put brakes on what they do and tell them to slow down. And unfortunately, they can't make everything happen for everyone. Whereas with the ones that perform less, unfortunately, I notice myself that I have to do more controlling, if you will, to make sure that they perform what they're supposed to do. And it's not a nice thing. I mean, a happy leader is the one who can just delegate and kind of check in with the employee later on, but that's not their reality. So I think it's a very relevant point of not burning out the high performance that Felix is raising. So perhaps Kosala or Piotr can also say something about that.
Yes, there's a tendency. Normally, as leaders, we try to give the more work for high performance. That says, go to the most busiest person, then the job will be done. So you need to be very careful about the overburdening the high performance. That also based on your prioritizing. So if you have 10 actions, you should know that 82%, 20 to 80 rule, which are the main important actions, and to give to the high performance people for manage that, other actions to the other team members. Thereby you can make sure you are looking the well-being and the long run, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. So we need to make sure they are not overburdened on that. And there's another question has come based on one of my comments. One is can we ask the same people vision or the strategy people to do the execution? Now, it is important to understand the people who are doing the groundwork in the market. You are not doing the head office people cannot do it, or headquarters or regional people cannot do it. But what you need to do is you are responsible for that execution. Like, for example, assuming I'm making a mix or a new product for Europe, if I'm planning to roll it out that into the Asia, I may have to do a certain changes. And that changes, I need to work with the people who are in Asia. Then still I am responsible for the total project. I cannot pass that to the Asia people and say, you know what, you guys need to manage that. It's not my job. Because success in Asia is also a part of my responsibility, and I need to take that resource allocation. Yeah. But of course, there are certain times you may find out some people are very good in visionary, some people are very good in creative, some people are absolutely great in execution. That's why very beginning I said there are 5 types of people are there. So when you find different people's strengths and weaknesses, our duty is to say that work on your strength and help them to cover with people or other resources or other facilities to cover their weakness. Then that's why the teamwork comes beautifully. Yeah.
Piotr, I think you wanted to say something. Go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing to what Kosala and before Maryna said. It's also kind of usually tempting, referring to these high performers, that leadership team, management board, they assign certain tasks that are the most important task to the same group of people because they performed so well. So yeah, let's not take a risk. Let's give it once again to them. And this is very important once you start a big change, transformation, new strategy, whatever it is, to really pick those people carefully and try to engage in this, let's say, high performance group. People from, let's say, this maybe a little bit less performing, not taking too much risk, of course, but less performing, or also maybe less visible, not so exposed to the top management, etc., giving them important tasks and goals, because it brings them up, and it also makes people enlarge the group of high performance guys. So that's also important part of picking the right people for the tasks, not focusing only on the group of few that are the highest performance.
Thanks, Piotr. We've got a few minutes to go. Meike, I know you were able to speak a second ago, but now you're back on mute. So I'm not sure what to do, but I know you've been listening avidly in the background. Maybe just if I can give just a 30-second slot to Kosala, Piotr, and Maryna. Just what are your final thoughts that you would like this audience to go away with? Literally just 30 seconds on the topic of converting vision into action. What are the final thoughts you'd like them to go with? Maryna, may I start with you?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll make a nice bridge from what Piotr just said. I have I believe a conviction that obviously you need to allocate the most important work to high performance or the best talent. That's definitely the case. However, to decrease the chance of them to burn out, you need to make sure you monitor as their manager their workload, because those people automatically tend to go too far, work too much, and so on. So that way you sort of make sure that you don't lose them just because of their enthusiasm. And yeah, accountability stays. I mean, put people accountable. Well, the individual accountability is more important than the team, a nice big agile approach such as everyone is, because that's just not reality.
Maryna, Piotr, 30 seconds. You're on mute.
5 seconds, damn. Okay, so
mute again, Piotr. You have an agile mute button here.
Okay, so I think that the moderator is putting me on mute. 10 seconds I have left, I guess. So, purpose-driven strategies. Really, whatever your business is, show the higher purpose, the more important purpose. Present vision and let people define the action of their routes. Give flexibility in your strategy. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it simple. Make it easy to believe, and then plan. Yearly plans instead of a big 5 years plan that will change just after 1 or 2 months, as Kosala said, and with probably all experience. So flexibility in different ways, and carefully choosing the mix of leaders in the new strategy, transformation, change project that will lead it, enlarging the group of high performance using this opportunity. Thank you.
Piotr, thank you. Kosala, the last words for this session.
Yes.
No pressure.
No. Look after your baristas who are in the front line. They may be your brand managers, they may be your key accounts managers, they may be the sales team, they may be the machine operators, because they are the people who are going to really turn around your vision into the reality, because they are in the front. They are the front soldiers. So if you can look after them well, and if you can make a more purist, they will convert your beautiful strategy and vision into a reality. That's it.
Wonderful. I think you stuck to 30 seconds. That's pretty good after what's been a long day. So a very, very big thank you